Hello my dear friends, today is April 27th and you're on the Sanya in Florida channel. As always, here's a news summary from the Ukrainian front and the news segment. Let's start with Ukraine. For 30 years now, NATO has been dangling a carrot in front of Ukraine's face. 30 years have passed. The European Commissioner for Defense, Andrius Kubilius, stated that NATO membership is not in the cards for Ukraine. He said so directly. And a quick entry into the European Union isn't in the cards either. Here's his direct quote. Take a look. NATO membership for Ukraine is currently unavailable. That's how it is. They just won't take them. Simply won't. And that's that. Full membership in the EU as well. It's a complicated issue. He even suggests creating some other organizations altogether. Just don't join ours. You know, it's already been 30 years just dangling the carrot. NATO is still being led on, you see. Another 20 years will pass, guys, and by then, who knows how old I'll be. I'll be telling you all this as an old man, and Ukraine will still won't have joined NATO after another 20 years. It took 50 years to join NATO. By that time, the country will most likely be completely destroyed. It will be a completely different country, if anything is left of it at all. But at the rate things are going in Ukraine, there might not be such a country left at all. Now let's move on to Kyiv. There, in fact, things are going well for a certain segment of people. For those who have stolen the most European aid, those who are at the feeding trough, those along the route of European money flowing into Ukraine are living wonderfully. You know, during the height of the war, Kyiv ranked third in Bentley car purchases. A Bentley is a super premium car. The price starts at $400,000, but for a decent configuration, the car costs several million. If you want to buy a Bentley, you'll have to spend several million bucks on the car. Just for a car that will lose half its value in a year, you see? So accordingly, Kyiv ranks third in the world for Bentley purchases. In other words, some people are doing just great. Moreover, there are areas in Kyiv called Koncha Zaspa and Pushcha Voditsia. And in these areas live those wealthy Kyiv residents who are making huge amounts of money. They have huge palaces there, villas standing one after another. There's an entire district, and they're all concentrated together in these two areas. Right in these districts, outside Kyiv, elite housing, elite real estate. And what do you think? Has a single bomb or even a single drone or anything at all fallen there during all this time? During the special military operation? No, nothing has fallen there. There hasn't been a single strike on that place. Everything is just fine for them. They are living just wonderfully. Politicians, businessmen, oligarchs, the same Ukrainian deputies. Isn't that wonderful, right? It's kind of interesting the way the special military operation is being conducted. When the Americans started a war with the Iranians, right away, everyone, absolutely everyone there, the entire leadership, all the management, all the top leaders were simply gone within the first hours. You understand? That's war as it should be. But here, what is this? Explain it to me. Not a single bomb has fallen on those areas. Everything is still fine for them, and they're buying Bentleys in record numbers. Excellent. But you know what is actually being bombed? The Russian city of Odesa. That's the one that was bombed. Take a look. Here are some materials in front of you. Odesa was massively attacked by Shaheds. Infrastructure came under attack. In 3 districts of the city, there were hits on a residential complex, a frame, a hotel, and other sites. Fires and destruction broke out. At least 13 people were injured. At the same time, there was also a strike on the Chernihiv region. Here are some shots for you to see. In the Chernihiv region, critical infrastructure facilities and some enterprises were attacked. Large-scale fires broke out. Now let's talk about another assassination attempt on Trump. As you know, for us, it's almost become a tradition that some, idiots, some supporters of Ukraine with a Ukrainian connection attempt to assassinate the American president. This is already the second assassination attempt directly linked to Ukraine. How so? The first assassination attempt, there was this shooter who accordingly took up a position with a firearm. He has plenty of photos on social media with Ukrainian flags, right? And this one too. It's the same thing. There's no difference at all. His name is Cole Allen. He raised money for the armed forces of Ukraine, criticized Vance for refusing to support Ukraine. Moreover, he even, organized fundraising himself for the armed forces of Ukraine. You see, that's already a clear link. Here, between Ukraine and those people who are trying to kill the American president elected by the people. And I'm certainly interested in Trump's reaction. In one of his messages, Allen called Vice President DJ Vance a piece of shit for saying that the US had effectively stopped aid to Ukraine. That's how it is. He also independently organized fundraising for Ukrainian brigades. Another Ukrainian connection, right? Yet another one like that. Once could be a coincidence, but 2 or 3 times it's already a pattern. It's an obvious Ukrainian trace. Trying to kill the American president. Trump's reaction to this will be interesting. Of course, he knows all of this perfectly well. He knows all of it. He's already been fully briefed, believe me. There will be some changes in the rhetoric from the American authorities after this. Now let's move on to Iran. Let's talk about it briefly. Iran sent a new proposal to the US, which Trump, by the way, has already mentioned. Iran proposed a new settlement scheme to the US. First, to provide guarantees of non-aggression against Iran and Lebanon. Then, to open the Strait of Hormuz. Right now the Iranian economy is suffering greatly because its main trade artery through the strait has essentially been blocked, where 80 to 90% of Iran's trade turnover used to go. And now the Iranian economy is not in the best shape. What was Iran counting on? On the fact that there would be a huge oil price shock. That oil prices would skyrocket to $200, $300 per barrel. And accordingly, that the global economy and pressure on the Americans would force them to abandon any idea of further escalation against Iran. But that didn't happen. You know that the Americans lifted sanctions on Russian oil. Temporarily, of course, and also on Venezuelan oil temporarily. And thus, the oil price shock was much milder than even when it happened at the start of the special military operation. When the Russian army entered Ukraine, in the first days of the special military operation, the first months, there was a huge spike in oil prices. It jumped to about $130 to $140 per barrel. During the Iran conflict, it was only around $125 or something like that. Now it has dropped back down to $105. Accordingly, there hasn't really been a price shock that would have caused something particularly bad in the global economy. Now let's move to the map of the Ukrainian front and talk about the advance of Russian forces. This is what the map looks like today, with 1,192 updates. Let's start from the Sumy direction. Here, Russian troops have regained lost positions in Kondratovka according to geomaterials. We advanced 1 kilometer and received geomaterials from this point. On your screen, the forward position of the armed forces of the Russian Federation came under fire from the Ukrainian armed forces. Now Bachkovo, we move further along the line of combat contact. We are only talking about changes on the front line. Here, Russian troops advanced approximately 4 kilometers from the border. Russian war correspondents talk about the capture of Bachkovo. I have already shown you geomaterial from this settlement. Changes on the map are indicated for you in a different color. Sinkovka. We move further along the line of combat contact. This is near Kupiansk. Here, Ukrainian sources report the advance of Russian forces. Here are the surrounded Ukrainian units. It was from here that those horrifying photos of Ukrainian skeletons came, who had been left virtually without food or water for weeks. They were stuck right in this particular area. Accordingly, Russian troops, here, all these pockets are being systematically destroyed. They are advancing, and this is the change. Now, Konstantinovka, Solnechny, we continue along the line of contact and move to Konstantinovka. Here, the Russian advance is marked in a different color. Russian troops have advanced here by 1.5 kilometers in the city and have reached new positions in the high-rise residential district. Right in this area. On your screen is the forward position of the Russian armed forces. The Solnechny microdistrict is under fire from the Ukrainian armed forces. And very close by are Konstantinovka and Dolgaya Balka. There is also Russian advancement here. In this section of the front, Russian troops have advanced by more than 1 kilometer. In this area, the advance is marked for you in a different color. Dolgaya Balka, they have taken new positions there in the eastern part of the residential area. According to geomaterials, it's from this point. On your screen is the forward position of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. It was shelled by the Ukrainian armed forces. That's all from me. We have discussed all the changes along the line of contact. Please subscribe to the Telegram channel, to YouTube, and to Max. Video updates are posted there every day. Don't miss them. Thank you. Goodbye.